You've seen it before. The woman who swears she wants a nice guy. The one who says she craves loyalty, consistency, and a man who treats her like a queen. But then, who does she end up chasing? Not the man who worships the ground she walks on. Not the man who buys her flowers and responds instantly to every text. No, she becomes obsessed with the man who acts like she's nothing. The man who barely notices her. The man who treats her like she's replaceable. The man who lives as if she could disappear tomorrow and he wouldn't blink. And here's the brutal truth. Women don't just tolerate this kind of man. They get addicted to him. They lie awake at night replaying every interaction, every breadcrumb of attention he gives. They check their phones obsessively, wondering why he hasn't messaged back. They analyze his tone, his body language, his silence, as if decoding a mystery that only they can solve. And the more indifferent he is, the deeper they fall. This is the paradox no one wants to talk about. The harder you try to please a woman, the faster she loses interest. But the more you act like you could take her or leave her, the more she clings to you like a drug she can't quit. Why? Why are women wired to crave men who act like they're nothing? Why do they chase indifference as if it's the highest form of value? And why, no matter how many times they say they want something different, do they always come back to the same type of man? That's exactly what we're going to break down today. Not surface-level nonsense, but the deep psychological truth. Because once you understand this, once you see the mechanics behind female addiction to indifference, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. You'll stop wasting time being the man she forgets, and you'll become the man she can't stop thinking about. But let me warn you, this truth isn't comfortable. It won't flatter your ego. It won't stroke your feelings. In fact, it may shake the very foundation of how you think attraction works. But if you can handle it, if you can face it head on, you'll understand women in a way 98% of men never will. Let's dive in. Here's the first thing you need to understand. In human psychology, scarcity creates value. It doesn't matter if we're talking about gold, rare art, or human attention. What's rare feels valuable. What's abundant feels cheap. This is Economics 101, and women's psychology runs on the exact same law. Think about it. Which man is harder to forget? The guy who texts her, "Good morning, beautiful," every single day without fail? Or the man who disappears for 3 days, then sends a single casual message like, "You free tonight?" Logically, the first guy should win. He's consistent, reliable, and clearly interested. But emotionally, the second man has the upper hand. Why? Because his attention is scarce. It feels earned. It feels valuable. This is where most men fail. They think showing more effort, more affection, more consistency will win her over. They treat attention like a currency that works on volume. The more you give, the more valuable you become. But in reality, it's the opposite. The more you give freely, the less it's worth. Women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing, because every drop of attention from those men feels like gold dust. It's unpredictable, rare, and intoxicating. Let me put it another way. Imagine you're addicted to sugar. If you live in a house full of candy, you won't value it. You'll snack mindlessly and eventually get sick of it. But if you only get one piece of chocolate every few days, you'll savor it. You'll crave it. You'll obsess over when the next piece is coming. That's exactly how women respond to indifferent men. His attention isn't just attention, it's dopamine wrapped in scarcity. And dopamine is the key. Here's what most men don't realize. Attraction isn't logical, it's neurological. It runs on brain chemistry, not common sense. Every time a woman gets attention from a man she values, her brain releases dopamine, the chemical of anticipation and reward. But the biggest dopamine spikes don't come from predictable, consistent rewards. They come from unpredictable ones. This is called variable reward scheduling, and it's the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. When you pull the lever on a slot machine, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. The randomness of the reward makes your brain release more dopamine than if you got the same reward every time. That unpredictability creates obsession. Now think about the man who acts like she's nothing. He doesn't text back immediately. Sometimes he gives her attention, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he praises her, sometimes he ignores her. His unpredictability makes her brain fire up like a slot machine. She never knows when the next reward will come. And that uncertainty makes every drop of attention more addictive than a flood of predictable affection. Meanwhile, the nice guy who's always available is like a vending machine. She presses the button and the candy drops. No excitement, no suspense, no thrill, just boring, predictable availability. And what's predictable loses value. This is why women get hooked on indifferent men. Their brains are literally being rewired into addiction through variable rewards. And here's the kicker. She's not even aware it's happening. She'll tell herself she's drawn to his confidence, his mystery, his vibe. But what's really happening is chemical. Her dopamine system has turned him into a drug, and she can't stop craving the next hit.
Now that you understand scarcity and dopamine loops, let's break down the psychological triggers that make women chase men who act like they're nothing. 1. The validation gap. Women thrive on validation, compliments, reassurance, signs of approval. But here's the paradox. The man who gives her endless validation creates no gap. She knows where she stands with him. There's no mystery, no uncertainty. And where there's no uncertainty, there's no tension. But the indifferent man, he creates a validation gap. She never knows exactly what he thinks of her. She doesn't know if she's winning him over or losing him. That uncertainty hooks her brain. She starts working overtime to close the gap, dressing better, texting more, bending her schedule. She invests because she's chasing that elusive validation. 2. The pre-selection effect. Women are biologically wired to notice men who seem desired by others. If he's indifferent to her, her subconscious assumes he has options. Why else would he not be chasing her? His lack of neediness signals abundance, and abundance triggers pre-selection, the sense that he must be high value because other women want him. 3. The emotional roller coaster. Stable emotions don't create passion. Contrast does. Think of movies, novels, or songs that grip us. They all rely on highs and lows. Similarly, indifferent men put women on an emotional roller coaster. One day she feels special when he finally pays attention. The next, she feels ignored and insecure. This emotional volatility bonds her more strongly than steady comfort ever could. 4. The ego challenge. Here's the brutal truth. Many women can't resist a challenge to their ego. When most men bend over backward for her, the one who doesn't cracks her pride. She thinks, wait a second, why isn't he impressed by me? Why doesn't he chase me like everyone else? That bruise to her ego ignites obsession. It's no longer just about attraction. It's about proving herself. Let's take these principles and apply them to real-world situations you've seen play out 1,000 times. Scenario 1. The party dynamic. Imagine a party. Guy A spots a beautiful woman across the room. He rushes over, showers her with compliments, laughs at all her jokes, and keeps her drink topped up. He's attentive, eager, and clearly interested. Guy B, he notices her, maybe nods, then keeps talking to his friends. He's relaxed, unbothered, living his night whether she's there or not. When she finally approaches him, he gives her a little attention, a smile, a witty remark, then goes back to his conversation. Who does she end up chasing? Not guy A, the one who made her the center of his night. She's flattered by him, sure, but she doesn't crave him. It's guy B she obsesses over, replaying his indifference in her head, wondering why he didn't give her the attention every other man did. Scenario 2. The texting game. Two men get a woman's number. Man 1 texts her that night, "Hey, it was amazing meeting you. Can't stop thinking about your smile. Would love to take you out soon." Man 2 waits 2 days, then sends, "Hey, I'm grabbing a drink Friday. You in?" Who does she prioritize? Man 1 made himself too easy, too predictable. She knows she has him in her pocket. Man 2 gave her just enough to feel invited, but not enough to feel secure. She'll spend the next 2 days wondering if he's really into her, checking her phone, hoping for more crumbs. That craving is addiction. Scenario 3. The long-term relationship. Even in long-term relationships, this dynamic plays out. A man who worships his partner, who makes her his entire world, often finds her withdrawing over time. Meanwhile, the man who maintains his independence, his priorities, his hobbies, his social life, the one who doesn't fold his identity into hers, keeps her chasing. His indifference isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. And paradoxically, that self-respect keeps her hooked. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. If you asked women why they chase these men, most wouldn't say, "Because he treats me like I'm nothing." They'd say, "He's confident, he's mysterious, he's masculine." And in a way, they're right. Indifference looks like confidence. When a man doesn't rush to text back, it signals self-control. When he doesn't bend over backward to impress, it signals high standards. When he doesn't orbit her like a satellite, it signals that he has a life worth living. Even if he's not consciously projecting confidence, his indifference creates the same effect. Women interpret his lack of neediness as proof of value. Meanwhile, the nice guy thinks he's showing love and devotion, but to her it signals low value. Why? Because if his attention is so easy to get, it must not be worth much. This is the tragedy of modern dating. Men think effort equals attraction, but women don't fall for effort. They fall for emotional impact. And nothing impacts a woman more deeply than the man who seems just out of reach.
To really understand why this happens, you need to go back thousands of years. Long before dating apps, long before Instagram, long before society told women to follow their hearts. Back then, women's survival depended on choosing the right man, not just any man. The man who could protect, provide, and stand firm under pressure. Now, ask yourself, which man do you think ancient women trusted more? The man who threw himself at every woman in the tribe, desperate for attention? Or the man who held himself apart, who seemed focused on his mission, who wasn't easily swayed by beauty? The answer is obvious. The man who treated women like he could take them or leave them was the man who projected strength, stability, and abundance. He didn't need her for survival, which meant if she joined his life, she'd be entering a position of safety. This wiring didn't disappear with modern civilization. It's still running in the background of women's psychology today. When a man acts like she's nothing, her instincts whisper, "If he's not desperate for me, he must have other options. If he has other options, he must be valuable. If he's valuable, attaching myself to him increases my survival chances." It's not logical, it's biological. Her brain equates his indifference with proof of strength. And that proof ignites attraction that feels less like choice and more like compulsion. This is why nice guys who overinvest too early get overlooked. Their behavior signals weakness, as if they have nothing better to do, no mission bigger than her. And women are not wired to respect weakness. Now, let's address the uncomfortable truth. When a woman gets addicted to a man who acts like she's nothing, the relationship often spirals into toxicity. Why? Because addiction is not love. Love is built on mutual respect, emotional safety, and consistency. Addiction is built on dopamine spikes, uncertainty, and obsession. And obsession always burns unstable fuel. Here's how it usually plays out. Stage 1, the chase. She's hooked by his indifference. She obsesses, she invests, she bends over backward to get closer. Stage 2, the high. Every time he throws her a crumb of attention, she feels euphoric. She convinces herself he's worth it, that he's special, that she's winning him over. Stage 3, the crash. Eventually, his indifference starts to sting. She feels neglected, insecure, undervalued, but instead of leaving, she doubles down, hoping to get back to the high. Stage 4, the spiral. Her self-esteem erodes. She loses herself in trying to gain his attention. She starts tolerating disrespect, excuses, and even mistreatment just to avoid the pain of losing him. This is why women who chase indifferent men often end up saying, "I don't know why I can't let him go." It's not because he's treating her well. It's because she's addicted. The relationship has hijacked her brain chemistry. And here's where men need to be careful. Because yes, indifference creates addiction. Yes, it keeps her chasing. But addiction is not the foundation for a healthy, lasting bond. If you build a relationship entirely on indifference, you'll have control, but you won't have trust. You'll have power, but not peace. You'll have her attention, but not her heart. So the question becomes, how do you use this knowledge wisely?
Now, listen carefully, because this is where most men get it wrong. When they hear that women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing, they think the answer is to be cold, rude, dismissive, or outright cruel. That's not the point. That's not attraction, that's abuse. The real power lies in healthy indifference. Healthy indifference means you don't put her on a pedestal. You don't abandon your goals, values, or mission to chase her. You don't need her validation to feel whole. And you're willing to walk away if she disrespects you. Toxic neglect, on the other hand, looks like this. Ignoring her emotional needs just to prove a point. Using manipulation to keep her insecure. Treating her like she doesn't matter at all, even when she's investing in you. One builds respect, the other breeds resentment. The difference? Self-respect. When you value yourself, you naturally act like her attention isn't the center of your world. You don't have to fake indifference. You don't have to play games. You simply prioritize your life, your purpose, and your boundaries, and she feels that energy. That's what keeps her addicted in a way that can evolve into respect, not just obsession. So how do you use this knowledge without falling into the trap of manipulation or cruelty? Here's the framework. 1. Build your mission first. A man with a mission doesn't have to act indifferent. He is indifferent because his energy is focused elsewhere. When your career, fitness, hobbies, and friendships are strong, women sense that your world won't collapse without them. That independence is magnetic. 2. Control your attention. Don't hand out your time and validation like free samples. Make her earn it. Not through games, but through genuine value exchange. Give attention when it's deserved, not when it's demanded. 3. Use silence as a tool. You don't need to reply instantly. You don't need to fill every silence with reassurance.
Sometimes your lack of immediate response speaks louder than words. 4. Stay unshaken by beauty. Most men crumble the second they meet a gorgeous woman. They become nervous, overly complimentary, desperate to impress. Stand firm. Treat her like an equal, not a goddess. That alone sets you apart from 95% of men. And 5. Be willing to walk away. The ultimate form of indifference is the willingness to lose her. When she knows you won't compromise your standards, won't beg, won't cling, she respects you. And respect is the soil in which real attraction grows. Conclusion, the final warning. So why do women get addicted to men who act like they're nothing? Because scarcity creates value. Because unpredictability rewires the brain. Because indifference signals confidence, options, and abundance. Because their biology is still tuned to respect the man who doesn't need them. But here's the warning. Don't confuse addiction with love. If you build relationships purely on indifference, you'll never taste the depth of a real bond. You'll keep women chasing, but you'll also keep them insecure. And insecurity burns out fast. The goal isn't to manipulate women with fake indifference. The goal is to live a life so full, so mission-driven, so rooted in self-respect that indifference becomes natural. You're not cold, you're not cruel, you're simply complete with or without her. And that's the paradox. The second you stop needing her, the second you stop chasing, the second you act like she could vanish tomorrow and you'd still be unstoppable, that's the moment she becomes addicted. Not to your games, not to your cruelty, but to your value. So build your value, guard your time, stay on your mission. Because the man who acts like she's nothing, as long as it comes from strength, not spite, becomes everything she can't let go of.